Roll call.
Chisel. Neal. Emily Neal. Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Oh, we're not.
Steve
You gotta
Luce.
unmute, Steve.
Trying.
Thank you.
Hey.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Hey. Johnson.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Zittergrun.
Here.
Hey, you got everybody.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, public comment. I've asked Jessica Rilling to just give us a brief introduction for herself. She's the new Chamber of Commerce Director. Jessica.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate seeing you guys, and I look forward to talking with you more in person. I started with the Decorah Area Chamber of Commerce December 9th and had a couple weeks of overlap with the outgoing director, Christina, who I'm sure you all know. Excited to be here. This is the town I graduated from high school in. My husband and I had talked about moving back, and I would not have guessed that 2020 would have been the year where that opportunity presented itself, but it did. So we feel very blessed to be here back in our hometown and close to family. My husband is a senior software engineer with BAE Systems, which is based in Cedar Rapids. And prior to this position, I worked for a 501c3 nonprofit called Iowa Valley RC&D. We did a lot of creative placemaking work and also quite a bit with food systems. So yeah, this is, like I said, I feel blessed to be here. I spent my first couple of months learning a lot about what the Chamber has done in the past, and am really excited to continue with those things and hear from both the Chamber members and the community about other projects that we can engage in going forward. The two things I might just mention briefly for you is that the annual fundraiser, which I know brought a lot of professionals and people together in the community, typically I think was an end of February event, the gala, is going to be done this year virtually as a trivia event in partnership with the Courtyard and Cellar Trivia crew. We're going to have a lot of Decorah specific questions, and we're hoping that that might be a nice way for us to still have a fun night, but do so from the safety of our homes or wherever people are joining with their teams. So that registration went live today. You can find out more about the event on the Chamber homepage or the event page for the gala. I think you may have also seen a little bit about a project called the Deets smartphone app. That's something that working together with Winnebago County Development and Tourism on that launches here tomorrow. It was a couple of young entrepreneurs out of Cedar Rapids that started that in response to COVID. And so Decorah is serving as their small town pilot. I think they're hoping to bring that to a lot of other small Iowa communities, but we're helping them get started with that. So those are, I think, probably the closest things happening. But I'm certainly happy to take any questions from you guys, and like I said, look forward to getting to know you all more in the coming year.
I think your history and your educational background fit well into many of the city projects that are going on. We will have you start attending also the gathering that gets together that are the Winnebago Economic Development and the City Economic Development. I'll send you out some information for that. That's a small committee that is just getting set up. But I think that as you get used to being in. I think your talents are going to be well used. Any questions, any comments from council?
Oh, welcome, Jessica.
Welcome
I
back.
think my friend Steve Shriver was in that Dietz creation blitz. So I'm excited that's coming to Decorah, so thanks.
Yes,
Yeah, he was great to work with.
I actually downloaded the app, so I'll know where I'm supposed to go over the weekend. Anything else?
That's great.
Okay, that being said, thank you very much. You're welcome to.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone. Thanks for,
Okay.
Great to meet you. So
letting
much
me-
for being here. And
Okay. Annual report by the Dave Spencer and the Police Department.
I'm going to do a quick rundown of the annual report, and I know that Chad put it in everybody's Dropbox. If you have any questions, we can get to those at the end. First of all, there's no need for me to remind anybody what the year 2020 was. It changed every aspect of what we do at the Decorah Police Department. We're all trained first responders, so we go to every medical call. We took a back seat in that area this past year. The only time we sent an officer into a house for a medical call was when we were requested for assistance, and that was for lifting or anything that we needed that way. Traffic stops, we went down from a primary job that we do to one that we did when it was necessary. Educational programs stopped almost completely. We had a fingerprinting service that we did at the law enforcement center that we stopped doing. Foot patrols, again, went from a priority to a rarity. Community interactions stopped. When we interviewed people at the police department, we either did it in our lobby or in the parking lot, unless it was a sensitive nature of a case and we brought them inside the PD. Trainings, much like everybody's seen, we've gone from in-person trainings and conferences to Zoom meetings and trainings. As you can see from our department photo, not the one on the cover page, we're a varied and experienced police department. Looking through our years of service chart, right below the picture, you can see a definite split in our years of service and experience. Half of our agency have 10 to 30 years of experience. The rest is 1 to 5. I neglected to list the 3 new officers in the hierarchy chart. So if you look at the hierarchy chart, there should be 3 boxes added there for the new hires that we had over the past year. This last year, we saw 3 retirements: Sergeant Mark Heffern, Dispatcher Lisa Cruz, and Patrol Officer Jim Frost. With those 3 folks, we lost 55 years of experience, all great people. We sent 1 officer to the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, graduated, not only graduated, but he graduated #1 in his class. It's been a long time since we've had somebody come back with that piece of hardware. We created and implemented 3 new community programs that I'm very proud of at the police department. First one being the bias report. I want to thank Luther College officials, primarily Dr. Lisa Scott, for her assistance with that program. She kind of explained the shortcoming that we had and helped us get that rectified. The elderly care program, a lot of pride in that program. It's a pilot program. We're trying it out for 6 months. COVID took a lot away from that program. We don't have the face-to-face interactions that we should be having with the people that sign up for that program, but we're still making it work. I'm actively taking part in that program. I've got a gentleman that I contact on a regular basis, so that's a really cool program. I keep hearing the officers in the squad room talking to the people they're checking in with. So even though it's COVID, we're still very active with the elderly care program. The vacation home check was the last one that we implemented. That's gone over like gangbusters. We've got so many that we're starting to think that we might have to tweak that program. If you're gone for a week, we might not be able to check up on your house. If you're gone for 2 weeks, we might start looking at it. If you're gone for a month, definitely. But we've got an overwhelming response for that, so I'm happy the way that's come across. Some highlights from the past year. First and foremost, the dispatch center was moved from the city of Decorah to emergency management. Large undergoing, a lot of hours, a lot of time spent with that. I want to thank Sheriff Dan Marks and EMA Manager Sean Snyder for their help on that project. Great guys to work with. They made that transition go smoothly. We moved the dispatch center from the front of our building to a larger area in the back room. This is a transition that needed to be done years ago. A dispatcher's job is a 911 telephone and the police radio. That's where they need to concentrate their efforts on. They can't be getting up to go talk to somebody at the window that found a dog or lost an earring or is having trouble with maybe an X. So if the dispatcher's tied up at the window, they lose that 911 and the police radio transmissions. So I'm happy to say that that's moved. Again, Sheriff Marks and EMA Sean Snyder, huge asset in getting that program going. We purchased new computer-aided dispatch and RMS records management systems. Again, I want to thank Sean and Dan. They were both instrumental in all the different vendors we've talked to, all the different variances that are out there for these programs, and settled on one. It takes a year to build it. We actually start training on it tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be our first day, and it's going to be about 3 weeks of training. So we're excited about that change coming through.
Chief, can I just ask a question quick? Will the Sheriff's Department and PD share the same records management software now?
Yeah, the police department, sheriff's department, jail, and dispatch will all be using the same,
Awesome.
including clerical staffs too, and bookkeeping as well.
Okay. And does it have the same mobile application for all of you as well?
It does, yeah. There's a couple different components, and mobile RMS and mobile CAT are in there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, excited about it. Big change. Some goals for the upcoming year. We want to get back to the normal with community interaction and involvement. We're going to revise and update our policy manual. For those that haven't seen, the police department's policy manual is 400 pages plus. I'm not sure it's been touched in the last 10 to 11 years, so it's time to update. And that's on my list for things to get done this year. We're going to start the DARE program back up again. Officer Yanif is our new DARE instructor. I think with our new records management system, we can go paperless at the police department. You have no idea how much paper we go through at the police department with files. So I think before I make that promise that we're going paperless, I want to see how these trainings go and how that translates, but I think we can go paperless. We're revamping our parking ticket system. Everything right now is handwritten, so you don't know if it's a Q or a 0, an F or a P. That's going to be all digital electronic, and it's going to be incorporated into our new record system. The numbers and the incidents, you can expect with a pandemic, the numbers are down. Motor vehicles, if you looked at that one, they increased from 1 last year to 5 this year. But if you go back 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 5 to 7 is the norm of stolen vehicle or missing motor vehicle cases that we take. So to have 1 last year, that was the anomaly. Arrests were down, calls for service are down. But if you look at the calls for service and arrests numbers, you'll see they're down from last year, but if you compare it to the year before that or the previous year from that, we were pretty close to the same numbers. So just because the pandemic went through didn't mean that we weren't busy. Narcotics, marijuana, again, is a leader in our area. Pharmaceuticals were second. Nothing really changed in that area. Traffic enforcement, our numbers were down there because people weren't out and about and we weren't doing a lot of traffic stops. We didn't want people handing us their driver's license and all that contact, so we shied away from traffic stops. In closing, I want to thank the City Council, City Hall staff, men and women of the Decorah Police Department, all the other city departments that worked with us this past year. I want to thank the community for standing by us during a difficult year. There's not a lot of police departments that can say they had the community support that we did. Very humbling, and I feel that we're blessed to be serving this community. If you've got any questions, see what we can do.
Council, questions, comments?
I would like to thank you and all of your staff and everyone at the police department and sheriff's department. I think you've done a tremendous job during COVID. I know you had to enforce a policy that was hard with the mask mandate, and I really appreciate you working with the council on that. And I also just I know your jobs can be really tough and it's been a tough year for everyone, but thank you so much for all the work that you and your force have done.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dave.
Thank you again.
Hey,
In your hierarchy, go ahead, Mayor.
I'll bring him back to he was walking away here. Okay. Now you can ask him.
Chief, in the hierarchy chart, there's an investigator position open. Are you seeing that as an internal hire or internal promotion?
We've had an investigator for 25 years. We dropped that spot from the specialty of investigator, and we put that person on the road in patrol capacity. Too many times we're having one officer working by themselves, and I think we're on borrowed time as far as an officer not getting injured in the line of duty. So one nice thing about having the double officers on duty all the time for the backup and officer safety is when we had an investigator, it was easy for a police officer to say, I don't want to deal with this case. I'm going to give it to an investigator. I don't know how to work a fraud case. I'm going to give it to the investigator. By not filling that spot right now, we're forcing all the officers to kind of broaden their horizons. At some point, I do want to come back to council and talk about maybe we can hire another officer and still keep the double shifts that we have and promote somebody from within for the investigator position. But that's not on my agenda right now.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I will ask you, you put a lot of work into this report. It's very informational. I'd ask that you put it on your website and showcase it or let people know where to find it on your website.
Yeah, that was a great recommendation you had last year to put it on the website. We did that last year, and I've got a sticky note on my desk that says after we give the council their copies, we're going to do that immediately tomorrow. I made copies if everybody wants to report. The reports that I have there have the updated hierarchy chart with all the officers' names on it. The ones in the Dropbox are left out.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you, Chief.
Hey, I would take a hard copy. So if there's a hard copy there and I'll come down to City Hall and get one.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to the council of an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll continue. Consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of minutes of the February 15, 2021 regular meeting, the claims, approval of agreements with Erdman Engineering and WHKS for construction administration services for the 2021 Pole Line Road Bridge Reconstruction Project, and Resolution 3169, declaring necessity and providing for notice of hearing on proposed urban revitalization plan for the Decorah Commercial Drive Urban Revitalization Area. I would like to just give a brief background on the Resolution 3169. Council had previously set a hearing similar to this for the Commerce Drive Commercial District. And because I didn't get the notices mailed out in time for everybody in that district, we've modified the district to include just the subject property, which is the Russell Novak Hearth Store. And so the Bond Council has suggested that if we reset this hearing for March 15, we can do a simple action at that time to approve the district for the subject property. And there's really no harm, no foul on this. If any other businesses or properties in what we would have thought would have been the district and they want to apply for commercial abatement, it would just be amended into this new created district. But in order to keep the timeline moving and to keep the project moving, I recommend that we reset this hearing and allow for just the district of the one subject parcel. And that would be for March 15 at 5:45.
This is Hadley. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Luce would second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Chisholm, Zittigrun.
Aye.
public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and taking of bids for the 2021 Pole Line Road Bridge Reconstruction Project. Chad?
This is a required public hearing on the plans and specifications for this local/Iowa DOT cost share project to reconstruct the bridge on Pole Line Road in the northwest area of the city. The DOT funding is 80% to a maximum of $1 million. Local share is 20% in any amount over the $1 million threshold. It's proposed that a significant portion of the road would be constructed along with the bridge as well. The DOT set a bid date of February 16, public hearing and award set for tonight. 2 bids were received: Skyline Construction Incorporated of Decorah and Brennan Construction Company of Lansing. Skyline Construction is the apparent low bidder at $1,101,636.36. Information and engineers' recommendations in the packet. There have been no comments received at City Hall that I'm aware of on this project.
I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item? I'm seeing none in-house, and I'm seeing none in Zoom. So I'll close the public hearing. Consider Resolution 3171 approving the plan specs. Consider Resolution 3170 approving the plan specs, form of contract, and awarding the bid for the 2021 Pole Line Road Bridge Construction Project.
I move to approve.
Luce would move 3170.
Johnson will second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Is Jeremy on?
I don't think so, but Tom is here.
Tom, who makes the specs for these bids for this when they go to the state like this?
You have your microphone on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Who writes up the specs for this? Because I noticed in the background notes that they're off by 13%, which on $1.1 million project is significant.
So the specifications for construction would be the Iowa DOT specifications, but the engineer's estimate would have been developed by the designers, which in this case was a combination of Erdman Engineering and WHKS.
So, and actually, I think to be clear, Randy, for your question, it was the bid that came in higher, right? But then there were a couple of errors noted in that when they were corrected, then the low bid is approximately 8% over the engineer's estimate. Is that the relation to your question?
Well, my question is, when we're talking $1 million bids and we make a 10% mistake, that's $100,000. So I was just wondering who.
So how do you? I mean, it's not a mistake. The bid came in higher than the engineer's recommendation, right?
All right, I'm just.
Because the engineers, they work on these projects, but even with any project, I mean, the engineer develops their best estimate of what the project will be based on past performances. Mm-hmm. So maybe they pull the Locust Road DOT bids, or they pull another DOT job to look at quantity pricing. But, that can fluctuate so much based on material costs or even just time or whatever. So when the engineer says the project's $1 million, but then bids come in at 1.1. I mean, that's just an environment based on material
when we budget for it, that it throws our accounting out askew.
Right.
So I mean, I was just curious.
Tom, is there a better way to explain that maybe than what I did?
There's nothing we can do about it. We're stuck with it. But I was just curious. So I would move.
No, Chad, I think you covered it accurately.
I'd move for approval of Resolution 3170.
I think they've.
Can I
there's
can I
been a
have
move
I want
in
to
a
follow?
second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, I was just telling Randy that it's been moved and seconded and we're in discussion. So, Emily.
Well, I had a question. I was following up with Randy there. I mean, it seems like that's always the case. I mean, I've never seen a bid where the engineers have proposed something that there wasn't, then the bid was higher. But
Actually, I think we had
assume-
one. I think we had one earlier this summer that the bid was lower than the engineer's estimate. I think Commerce Drive might have been.
Commerce Drive.
Right, was lower.
Commerce Drive. Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Motion passed. Public hearing on the plans, specifications, form of contract, and taking of bids for 2021 Dry Run Plaza project. Chad, you want to give some background on that?
This is the required public hearing on the plans and specifications. There's a local steering committee that's redesigned this park space and worked with city departments, local organizations to secure in-kind contributions of material or labor to help in the overall construction and final costs. And actually, I would give kudos to several of our city departments that have kind of chipped in some of their expertise for in-kind to help with some of the construction and layout of the park. The basic design of the park is relatively unchanged, and bids were received on Thursday, February 25th. One bid was received with the redesigned project of Wicks Construction Incorporated of Decorah. They've submitted a qualified bid in the amount of $123,000 for the base bid, and alternates of $29,500 for a total of $152,500. The architect's opinion of cost was $162,350 complete. Information and engineer's recommendation is in the packet. There have been no comments received at City Hall as of this writing.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there any person who wishes to speak to this public hearing? Come forward, state your name and address.
Harlan Santrum from Decorah, 402 Upper Broadway, and here kind of on behalf of the Drive-On Committee. And we want to thank the city and Chad and the Park Rec Department and Jeremy for all the work that they've done here. This came about because of the Main Street project that was looked at a couple of years ago, and even though at that point Decorah didn't move forward with the actual Main Street project, this project came about as a result of one of those things that could be done. And so Mike Harmon and Joe Grimstead, Keith Christensen, Mark Lovelace, myself, and in conjunction with the folks that we already mentioned, raised $168,000 to help make this project happen. And it's our hope that that can be approved by you folks tonight. It's a great example of public-private partnership. And we really want to thank Decorah Bank and Trust and the folks down at Oneota Eye Care for making lead gifts on this, but also to all the rest of the folks that contributed to this. So I was just here in support of the approval of that project, and thank you for that time.
Okay, thank you, Harlan.
Harlan, did you say 168?
168, but there are a couple of donations that I talked to Mike Harmon earlier tonight, and there's at least another $1,800 that hasn't we haven't gone back and asked for a final commitment on that. And then there's a person who has a donor, it's a private donor, an anonymous donor at this point, that is willing to maybe fill in some gaps. And Chad may know more about that, but bottom line is that this project is pretty fully funded the way that it looks right now. So anyway, okay?
Thank you, Harlan.
Thank you.
Any further comment from the public during this public hearing?
I want to thank Harlan and everyone else who helped put this together. It is a good example of public-private partnership, and pretty excited for this project to move forward.
Also,
Agreed. Thanks, Harlan, and others that contributed. This was great.
I think also that when we did the visioning project quite a few years ago, you know, it was also kind of showcased in that too, so it's nice to be able to have those two things come to fruition.
It's going to be kind of cool because there's $1.5 million park on the other end of town.
Yeah.
When it gets done, we got about $1.7 million in new parks bookending our downtown.
The comment was made that we have another park at the other end that was about 100 and some that was done too, so you have kind of a bookend as far as downtown is concerned. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Consider Resolution 3171 approving the plan specs, form of contract, and awarding the bid for the 2021 Dry Run Plaza project.
I move for approval of Resolution 3171.
Let me, before Kirk, before you go into that, let me just kind of clarify that while I even put an additional suggested council action here for one of the bid alternates, there were 4 alternates in addition to the base bid. And so the recommendation from staff and the committee is to award Wix Construction the base bid, but to hold off on the alternates until all the funding pieces are together. I will announce tonight that McClure Engineering has donated $10,000 to the project, and that was the piece that Harlan spoke of. And I am asking the council to consider funding the sustainability piece in terms of landscaping and some soil modifications and that. But I think our recommendation tonight would be to award the base bid, and then we would come back to you to award the alternates at a later date and time once we kind of know all the pieces on the fundraising. So, Kirk, tonight it would just be to award Wix the base bid of $123.
All right, I move to approve Resolution 3171, approving the base
Luce
bid
would second
for
that.
Wix Construction Company. And do you want
Luce would second that.
Do you want the 10,000 in sustainability included in that motion?
No, I don't think so at this time, but I would like some discussion on that before you leave this item.
Okay.
Okay, motion made, seconded, discussion.
Regarding the $10,000 that you asked us to discuss, Chad, I'm just curious, the generous, fundraisers and the hard work of the people leading that effort, came up with 168, and my math isn't terrific or anything, but it seems like, is there something that I'm missing in terms of why we couldn't do the whole project out of what's been raised?
Well, what we're not seeing here, I think, are the pieces that would involve contingency and some of those kinds of things. So I guess I'd like you to see a full accounting. Again, the other donation just came in tonight, so I think it'd be good to see a full accounting before you did any of the alternates. There's that contingency piece and stuff that's not in here. I think there was a 15,000 or 15% contingency in that. That's not reflected in these numbers either. We were most focused on the base bid tonight.
This is Andy. I might add the design, Decorah Betterment hired a landscape architect to design it, and that cost isn't in there. I think that was 13 or 14,000 probably that we've already paid out of the memorial fund.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Andy.
And probably some signage coming up too.
So we do have some skin in the game as a city, for sure. I guess I would, although I see butterfly habitat and soil modifications to be a sustainable effort, to Stephen's point, if they did raise $168,000, which I'm also very pleased with and contributed toward myself, because as the mayor said, this is part of our visioning project, and it's good to keep moving these visions forward into reality. But Betterment also has a 3-year, we worked for 2 or 3 years on Betterment as well. And I guess I'd want to make sure that they have the initiatives in that plan covered as well, because planting this was not part of the sustainability plan itself. So I guess if the Betterment has raised 168,000 and we've put 14.5 in through Park and Rec, And Jeremy, I would guess Jeremy in the street department will be involved as well. And we did Goats on the Go to help clear that space. I guess I'd want more input from the Sustainability Commission themselves before I said, yes, we're spending sustainability money.
Okay. So we've had a motion and a second discussion. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Luce,
Where'd he go?
Luce, Steve somewhere. Come back to him. Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Chisel, Zittergrun,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
There you go. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll kind of bring all the numbers back together as far as the 4 alternates and our final fundraising totals and that as the project progresses beyond the base bid, and you may see that at another point in time to accept any or all of the alternates at a later date. So, thank you.
Can I don't know that this is a time to say it, but I am wondering for a council committee meeting, and maybe it's a work session, that we do set some priorities on that sustainability money. I think we're probably just going to keep getting thoughts of like, oh, we could do this and this and this. And it would be good if we outlined as a council, like we kind of have ideas in our mind of what we might be using this money for in the next year. One, I think it will help the commission know in terms of setting their priorities, but also our priorities as well. So I would suggest at a committee work session, we do some brainstorming with that and talk about that money.
I think that's a good idea. I know at the last sustainability meeting, I think we asked the different groups to come forth with potential needs or budgets that they're thinking about. So if you put those 2 things together and have a discussion, I think that would be really valuable.
Do we want to do that at a committee meeting, or do we want to do that at a work session?
How about if we check back on that? I've got it down so we can talk about that. So let me think about that, or get some input from Jim Marnsham too. So, okay, resolution 3168, approving agreement with ASME Local 3483 for fiscal year 22 salaries.
This resolution is to approve the wage adjustment only for the 3rd and final year of the agreement, which was open for wage negotiations a couple of months ago. The set wage negotiated and approved by the bargaining unit is 1.65, and so we present that to the council as well for the final year of the agreement, fiscal 22.
I move to approve resolution 3168.
Second, Carlson.
Motion made, second. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call?
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Chisel, Neal,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Consider line of duty personnel policy. That was brought forth at the last meeting, or at the work session, I think it was.
It was brought forth at the work session. Wanda's done quite a bit of work on this, as discussed. I would turn it over to her because I know she massaged it a little bit after the work session. So, Wanda, I don't know if you have anything you want to add or comment on. Actually, frankly, I don't know if I got the final draft in the box from what you.
It seemed like every change was in there.
Okay.
Yeah, most of all the changes that we made that you talked about were made in here. I wordsmithed it just a little bit more. For instance, the very, very last paragraph where it talks about the employee bereavement assistance, I changed that last sentence to say other service may be provided as appropriate with prior approval of the city manager and or the city clerk. You know, just so that there is some language in there as to who has the authority to approve other services, additional services. And then in the one sentence where it talks about the fatality of any employee, I did put fatality of any active employee. So a current employee, not somebody who was an employee, 20 years ago. And mainly I put that in there because of some of the proposals that are being anticipated for municipal police and fire that allows them to come back, many, many years later after their employment ends and say something was a work-related incident. So I put active employee in there. Otherwise, everything is like we have changed it on that proposed draft that's in your Dropbox.
Do I have a motion and second for approval?
Lewis would move approval.
I'll second. Neil?
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Luce? Steve Luce?
His video's frozen.
Neil?
Aye.
Chisel? Zittergrun?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Luce?
Steve Luce?
Just another reason why we should have fiber to the home in Decorah.
Is he frozen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Was Luce and
Emily.
Neil?
Emily, can you withdraw your second and then we can vote and it can die and then we can do it again?
Yeah,
No, he's back.
Okay.
Okay.
Luce? Luce?
We're looking for your vote, Steve Luce.
You're muted, buddy.
Thumb up.
There you go.
Somehow I dropped off, but I came back in. Aye.
Aye, there you go. Thank you.
Motion carried. Consider approval and certification of 2020 residential tax abatement applications. Urban Hagerman, 300 Pleasant Hill Drive, single-family improvement, completed. Travis Ulanok, 2398 Red Oak Road, single-family improvement, completed 2021. Do you have any comments on that, Chad?
No, just to note that these projects were completed within the timeline. One of them was in December, the other in January, as you can see there. Worked with the county assessor. He was agreeable to accepting them as long as they still did come before council. So we're doing that. They are eligible projects, certainly. So we put them forward. They will be on 2020's list.
Okay.
Chad, could you refresh in terms of what is the amount that the valuation is supposed to go up to be able to be approved?
It's 10%.
Thank you.
I'd move for approval of and certify the two tax abatements.
Luce would second.
Motion made by Randy, seconded by Luce. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Chisel.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Neal.
aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
City manager, department heads, and council reports.
Mayor, I put a couple of things under this section. The ordinance 1257, face coverings for council discussion and/or reporting, and then a draft RFP or request for proposals for redevelopment of property at 701 Maple Avenue. I might have a couple other things to report on just verbally, but I would ask maybe that you touch on ordinance 1257 with the council at this time.
Okay. And we've got that on there for general discussion. Any comments?
I'd like to continue it. This is Hadley.
Okay.
I am happy to hear that the numbers are going down, but I do believe that the masking is important, and I don't think we're out of the woods. So I would propose that we continue it and continue to revisit in the future. I know Stephen had talked about having a metric where the ordinance might fall off, and I'm open to discussion of that. But for now, I don't feel like it's time.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Emily.
No, I was just going to say, I sort of feel like until every sort of Decorah resident who wants a vaccine can get a vaccine, we should all be masking up. So I'm hoping that, to me, we should look at it in July, but I do think that we've got variants out there. We definitely have immune compromised people, and the research is still coming in. So, Iowa right now has still one of the lowest vaccination rates. So I guess I'm sort of stay the course.
Yeah, I asked Chad, this is Steve Zittiger, and I asked Chad to put this on the agenda for discussion only because I think it'd be a good service to the people of Decorah for the council to clearly delineate what targets we were shooting for when we were thinking about removing the face mask mandate. I do agree with both Ross and Emily that this is certainly not the time to be premature. I guess for me personally, after talking to different health professionals and talking to a lot of Decorah residents over the past week, I feel like we should definitely wait until adults who want the vaccine in our county can get it pretty readily. And I think also we should wait for a pretty steep decline to hopefully just background noise for active coronavirus infections locally. But I do think it'd be good for Decorah residents to hear clearly from the council that we are planning on removing this mandate just as soon as we can get our numbers and our infections down and our vaccinations up.
Just as an aside, I know that there are a number of national experts who are still predicting somewhat of a rise in cases in April. So I think we should be very careful going forward into the summer.
And
I would speak as a council person who is in eligible to be one of the classified over 65 category and therefore at risk, that I wouldn't be comfortable considering anything for another 6 months.
Any other comment on the masks? Hearing none, I do want to say I'm anxious to have council come back to in-house meetings. We have, we've got Kirk here and Randy here and I'm here, and there are some precautions, and what I'm asking is if you individually can tell me what your criteria is before you would be comfortable coming in so that your constituents have an idea of what that is. We have had comments about why council isn't, and it's been obvious why you haven't been. So might you be able to do that at this time?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I to be honest, some of it has to do with when the hybrid model is in place. So, I mean, I wouldn't expect anyone to come in who wasn't vaccinated or who didn't feel safe. And so when the hybrid model is in place, for me, it's very hard actually to hear on Zoom or to feel like I'm heard with my mask there. So when we were there for the budget meeting, I found it very difficult to communicate in the two forms. And so one of the reasons I stay on Zoom is to just honor both the constituents and the people who feel like they can't come in person. And I feel like it's a better venue. People can see my face. They can hear me more clearly than when I'm actually in council chambers. So to me, it's actually the form of communication I feel is easier when I'm on Zoom than when I'm there.
Why don't I just pick another one? Ross.
I guess I would feel comfortable coming back when the city hall offices open up and they're also wearing masks during the day. I don't believe they are all the time because they are closed to the public, I think. I know in my business, We wear masks all day. I know the teachers wear masks all day. I know the students wear masks all day. So I know it's possible for people to wear masks all day. And if City Hall opens up and we're wearing masks all day and we wear masks at our meetings and can 6 foot socially distance, I will happily return.
Thanks. Andy?
Yeah, I can come back tomorrow if you want, Lorraine. I'm not nervous or afraid, and I've been vaccinated. I'm more worried about giving it to other people because I'm at school with hundreds of students every day.
Okay.
So I do it as a precautionary measure because I don't want to get anyone else sick. But I'm not afraid of getting it or anything. It's just, I'm just doing it out of respect. So if you want me to come back, I can.
Okay. Steve Zittergrun?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm similarly situated to Andy, except I haven't been vaccinated yet. I think that, you know, I agree with Emily that if some of us are on Zoom, it makes more sense for me to pay attention on Zoom. Also, in this childcare drought that coronavirus causes, a lot of times council meetings start before my wife is home from work. In the future, you know, once we're back in person, I'll figure something out. You know, there will be vaccinated babysitters and things, but right now it just this works pretty well. Additionally, the people who do have to work in person, the teachers, our public safety personnel, all the other essential workers in town, they're made more safe by us not crowding into a room when Zoom allows us to continue to be more effective. So part of the reason that I've refrained from coming back so far is out of concern that we make this community as safe as possible for those who do have to work in person. I felt like council's been fairly effective on Zoom in my time here. But that said, you know, as soon as I'm vaccinated and as soon as the bulk of council seems to want to return to in-person meetings, I'm happy to go along with them.
Steve Luce?
I'm very hesitant until anywhere near decline in cases to show up in a public meeting interior with other people nearby.
Randy? Randy, you're here.
Yeah.
So, and Kirk?
I'm 2 weeks past my second shot. I feel completely safe, and I also understand the hesitation of others.
I think, you know, if we have plenty of space here that we can go out, if it gets to be where, you know, some of you are comfortable, some of them are not, I'd encourage those who are to come back in. If it is a meeting where we're having a public meeting, there's a lot of people in here right now. We've got council, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 of us all together. And I think with the conversation, it would help with the mix if there were some in the house as well. I just wanted to ask you point blank, because I don't want to keep thinking, well, you should be in, you should be in. So I appreciate your input as well, and we'll hopefully look forward to lowering numbers, getting people vaccinated, and having some kind of a flat line as well. So.
What do we know about the air filtration system of the room?
I would have to check with perhaps Chad on that.
Well, it's your standard commercial air handling system. The boiler is primarily radiant heat. But if there's...
No, I'm talking about air movement.
Yeah. Well, it's your standard commercial building air handling system with filters and whatnot that are changed and regulated. Unfortunately, none of our windows in this building open, so we're constrained by that.
Okay.
I guess
there isn't filtration during the winter, really, because it's radiant boiler heat. That's the answer, right?
Well, there is an air movement system, but it's very basic.
Yeah.
So I guess I have a quick question for the mayor. Are you comfortable with all of us coming back, Mayor?
I think that the reason I asked is I think that it is an individual consideration. I'm comfortable here. I would be comfortable if you were here. But I also want to respect each and every council person at the same time, because each one has different reasons and understandings. I think that, you know, with some of the things going on and with the transition and such, having people in person and being able to communicate a little more than just what's on Zoom, I think that is important, and I think that I'll look forward to a time when we can get back to do that.
And I do think, I mean, I think maybe it's because I do teach all day in a mask with students in masks that I actually appreciate like being able to see Ross's face and Andy's face right now in a way that I can't actually see your face and Kirk's face and Brandy's face. So I mean, I obviously in person is ideal if we could feel that and see each other, but I did find the budget meeting to be very difficult, and we were all in person.
Right. I think that, you know, I think maybe one of the things in a smaller meeting, you want to come down and try it once and see what it's like for you for a regular meeting versus just a budget meeting. You can report back. But I think there has to be some kind of a balance too about what's convenient and what really is that we should be in-house. I don't think we've reached a point where people are comfortable completely, but I also know that like when I'm sitting here looking at any of the people in the room, I can see them pretty clearly and understand them too. So I'm putting it out there for open discussion. So I appreciate your input and consideration. Okay, let's see. Chad, do you have anything else?
The other thing I wanted to touch on is I put in a draft RFP for the sale and redevelopment of 701 Maple, just for discussion purposes. And if that seems all right, I can either get that sent out or I'll work with John on following the protocol to get that proposal out so that we can start getting bids or design ideas for redevelopment. But just wanted to take a little bit of time and see if there was any input on what that document looks like.
It looked good to me.
Yeah, I appreciate your work on it. I also thought it looked good, and I think it will be really interesting to see what kind of response you get out of the RFP.
Well, one thing that's kind of interesting is that I've had a couple of calls from some folks that would be interested in some salvage, which kind of surprised me because I'm not sure what is salvageable in that place, but apparently somebody wants something. And so I'll work with John. I think if we did a very quick turnaround time and said, hey, in a week, give us sealed bids on what you think you want to salvage and a dollar amount, we could entertain those maybe at the next meeting or something like that, even before we do the full property redevelopment. So I'll work with John on that if you thought that would make sense. Anything we get rid of out of there is certainly not going to go to the landfill. So if people think they want something, I think we should make it available to them.
Yeah, it'd be great for the butterfly garden.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any potential safety hazards of salvagers entering the building?
Well, yeah. So your building inspector said emphatically yes. And I can speak from experience because I had a nail go through my shoe when we were up there walking through the place. So, yeah, we'll make sure we certainly take all precautions and have staff there available or whatever. So.
Will that significantly slow down the process, Chad?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we'll work again. I'll work with John on timelines. We'll develop that, but. I'm giving them, I think in my RFP here, 6 months anyway to, kind of work through some of that. Even if we were to allow some salvage, again, we'd make it a quick turnaround. Maybe they have to do it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. Get that stuff out of there before we start moving with the rest of it. There's not much there to salvage. If somebody wants to salvage something, my guess is it's probably a weekend job, so.
Okay, and I think if there were any department head reports, they would be in the Dropbox. So we'll go around to Council. Kirk.
Nothing, Mayor.
Randy.
Nothing, Mayor.
Emily.
You're muted.
Give the report on the Sustainability Commission meeting from last month. They did discuss the upcoming priorities. We looked at the stormwater ordinance, which we then saw at our work session. So they spent some time looking at that quite thoroughly, which I think all council members have been briefed then on that. And also talked about building codes as well. I am hoping that another council member, I was unable to, and I really wanted to, make the child care meeting that the mayor hosted last Thursday. So if someone who was there would be willing to give a brief overview of that meeting, I unfortunately could not make that meeting and would be very interested to know how that went.
Emily, I think I might have recorded that. I guess I don't remember. So check with me tomorrow. I'll see if I recorded that.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Steve Luce.
Yes, I must say I appreciated all of the department head reports that were in the Dropbox. I haven't had the chance to read what's coming before people. But other than that, I have nothing to report, Mayor. Oh, I accept Zittergrun, Neal, and Hadley will be meeting on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, looking at the Dayland property and how to talk to continue discussions about that desired outcome.
Okay. Andy.
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Ross.
Just a reminder that we have a street committee special meeting after the regular council meeting here as a listening session to discuss Bruning Edition sidewalks. Emily, I did attend the childcare meeting, so if Chad doesn't have a recording, either the mayor or I can give you a heads up on that one, I'm sure. And Chad, I just want you talking about RFPs and timelines reminded me that I wanted to ask what the status was on the fiber RFP that had been issued and responded to.
Yeah, so Chopper had a MetroNet meeting today, and of course, part of the delay in me getting the response back out is just my time sensitivity. But I think that's all good to go, so I'll get that out first thing in the morning. I talked to Chopper about that tonight.
Hey,
awesome. Thank you for the heads up.
That reminds me, if the new COVID bill passes, which I'm sure it's going to pass the Senate, isn't there money in there for communities and broadband and fiber and things like that? And how do we access that money?
Yeah, I'm going to let Chopper touch on that because he's been kind of gauged on that. But usually what happens is that Decorah doesn't qualify because of our LMI.
That's correct. I've been watching several places for grants. We don't qualify for most of them.
Even in the new COVID package?
Well, the ones that are out now, like Freeport qualifies. A couple of our pockets right outside the city limits qualify. We do not. Now, I did talk to the OCIO office about 3 weeks ago, and they are telling me that there will be some significant changes coming, either the next one or the one after that. So I'm hoping that there could be some possibilities for some opportunities down the road.
And I have heard that some of it might be linked to how many students in the school districts don't have Wi-Fi, right? So as the push in the federal government, of course, is to get all students back to school, I think they're looking at family access to internet.
That is correct. I've been in talks with Kurt DeVore at the school about that as well.
Great.
Yeah, and Emily, if you might hear it on your end when you're at school too, but maybe not, I don't know. But if you hear anything, be sure you pass it on also.
Well, mainly it's just my interest in trying to make that happen, so.
Okay, thanks. Steve Zittergrun?
I'll just update on the MEU task force. The task force continues to actively be recruiting new members, given a few of the task force members chose to step down, I guess now 3 weeks ago. We've gone pretty far into discussions with various people who we thought would be tremendous additions to the task force, and for one reason or another, they've discerned that it wasn't the right time or the right fit for them. We continue to do that work. I think that the task force would certainly welcome nominations and recommendations for consideration. The other thing is that next Thursday morning at 9 a.m., the whole task force is meeting. Those meetings are public and open to the public, and I encourage the city to to listen in and pay attention. They're working hard at fulfilling the charge we gave them, the charter that we gave them. And that includes a lot of components. One of them is community outreach and education. Busily been engaged. There's a subcommittee of the task force that's in charge of that. And they've been really busily engaged at contacting and meeting with various community leaders, business leaders, done a lot of listening with them and a lot of education. And I think that's been very valuable for the work of the task force. You know, another thing that's happening alongside that is there's a group examining, I guess, the feasibility of a feasibility study, what that would take, what would be involved. There are costs involved in something like that. And some of those costs are related to making sure that the task force is working with accurate numbers. Some of those costs are related to, you know, updating work that's been done in the past to reflect the current reality better. And I know that next week at the Thursday morning meeting, the MEU task force will be discussing the sort of the way that they want to approach the council with requests for funding to support their work. So they're working hard. They'd like more members to help share the work. They continue really trying hard to make sure that they're hearing from everyone and being fair about this. So I encourage you to follow along and see that for yourself.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve, are those meetings in person or Zoom?
Zoom.
They're on Zoom.
Can you tape it? Are you?
I guess that's up for Chad, but it is. Yeah, Chad.
Those are recorded.
Okay.
Okay.
And for people out there in Zoom land listening right now, those meetings are just publicized right on the front page of the Decorah website. You just scroll down and you'll find the Zoom link. You can listen in on the meetings that way.
Thanks, Steve. In addition to some of the, I mean, I worked with Jim Martin Schramm on the community leaders, which was an excellent meeting, great discussion. And so there'll be more information coming as far from Stephanie as she works with her project, but as a general discussion on the economy and childcare, covered a broad base of discussion. Nathan Thompson was going to be preparing a grant for housing. He has moved to working with Upper Explorerland on that, so you'll be coming at the next meeting for information on that as well, I believe. Let's see. Oh, meteorological, it's spring now. Meteorology people consider March, April, May, and spring. So today I'm thinking it's spring. Is there any further? Oh, and then I also listened to Krista Vanderbrink, and she talked a little about the new Johnson & Johnson, which they are going to call Janssen, Jansin, I believe. Some of that will be coming into the county as well, and I believe the target for that vaccine is for factories, and all of the vaccine companies should be getting more vaccines from all of them. So their job continues to go on. Anything else tonight before we close the public meeting?
I have one thing, Lorraine.
Okay.
It's
Wanda
Wanda.
has something. Sorry, Wanda.
Okay. I just want to just touch briefly on the email I sent out today to all of you regarding the municipal securities disclosure training. I just want to stress that is a mandatory training every 2 years, and nobody's done that yet, and this is a good opportunity to do that. So if you're able to do that, I would really encourage you to do it. Just be sure to let me know so that I can document it, that you attended.
Wanda, I meant to ask you, so thanks for bringing it up. If we take it, but we have to watch the recorded time, does that still count?
Yes, it does.
Okay, then I'm in.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Close the meeting.